Welcome to the GSL up and down matches. We're going to find out who is going back down to Code A and who is going straight up to Code S.
Yesterday we already had 2 players advance, and today we are going to find out 2 additional ones. We have another 5-player group for you guys, and today we have 2 Zergs, 2 Terrans, and 1 Protoss player trying to go straight to Code S through the up and downs, and they don't want to go through Code A in another season.
Definitely not. You know, this is one of the most intense places you can be as a player. You know, you didn't quite make it in your up and down, or in your Code A group, so now you're stuck here in this limbo with 4 other players. In this case, this season, we have all groups having 5 players, so you're up against 4 other people. You lose twice, then you got to hope for luck. There's a lot of intense stuff on the line, different matchups. You don't get to pick the maps, so you know, if you get a little bit luckier on certain matchups on certain maps, that's great for you. Sometimes you can get unlucky.
Yesterday we had Lenok advance together with Maru, and today we have a really stacked lineup once again. We have Golden, Trust, Yoda, Fantasy, and also, of course, Savage, who was able to go through the kind of a qualifier tournament and therefore gets one of the seats, one of 2 seats that we have for the up and downs. So a really stacked lineup once again, and especially Yoda and Fantasy are in everyone's focus. Everyone is looking at them and expects them to do quite well today. They have been in Code S before, and they want to go back to Code S right away, whereas they have to deal with all those challenges now here in the preliminaries.
Exactly. You know, Yoda, somebody who a lot of people were expecting to do better in Code S, not quite able to do it. Fantasy, a huge fan favorite. Not only is he a good player, but the fans love him a lot. I mean, he's probably the biggest player in the group by far. I mean, maybe even twice as well known as Yoda is for the fans.
I mean, we have other players like, for example, Golden, who also did well in the past, but still he's one of those players that is not as experienced as the others here, especially compared to Yoda and, of course, Fantasy. So Golden might be able to cause a bit of a surprise here, and the same is true for Savage. But before we're heading into today's group, let's have a quick look at the results that we have. That we had yesterday. Lenok took the first place with a 3-1 score. Maru Prime advanced together with him to Code S, which is going to be called the StarLeague, the OSL next season. GOM is working together with OGN here. Bunny, he was close, but he was just not able to get through. And DRG, very disappointing performance today by the former MVP star player. Rune, on the other hand, he had a few upsets here as well. And today, of course, the group with Golden and Trust. We have Yoda and Fantasy and Savage, who got the seed that we were talking about earlier. Yeah. And those tournaments were actually really stacked. So Savage is definitely one of the players that we need to watch out for today.
Yeah, he could get right into Code S if he's able to get out of this group today. He has a tough battle ahead of him here. Trust is somebody you can never really forget about either. He's not one of those players that I think everybody looks at and says, oh, I think he's a big player here. He's kind of one of those players who's lost in the background oftentimes, and that could be one of the scariest players you ever have. Like we saw Bunny yesterday, he surprised a lot of people with his results in that group.
Yeah, he definitely did. Even though he wasn't able to go to Code S, he had a really good run. Today we have the starting match between Golden and Trust.
Yes.
Not quite sure why Golden is going all Golden Z here, but yeah.
Yeah, probably just a production error there with the race, but unless he changes ID to Golden Z because he likes Dragon Ball or something, or he thinks it's cool, like he just wanted to be 13 again.
Yeah. He has a very interesting hairstyle.
Yeah. I didn't expect to hear that from you, but he certainly does.
Okay, I mean, I'm not the hair guy here, but if I see something like this, that's something that even I notice.
That's like the bird's nest hairstyle.
Yeah, it seems like he switched hairs with Blanca.
Exactly, it's just...
A.K.A. Tacita.
Yeah, Tacita was looking just like that a little bit earlier.
But guys, we are heading into game number 1 here at the GSL Up and Down Group B. We are going to match number 1. Golden is up against Trust. We have a Zerg versus Protoss on Atlas, our first map here today. Both players trying to get an early lead in the group. Only one of them can prevail in this best of 1. So let's jump right into it at the GSL Up and Down Group B with Cull and Wolf. Hello. Hi robots. Hi robots. How you doing? Starting to the top left, we have the Startail player, the Zerg, calls himself
Startail Gordon.
Not a robot.
Not a robot. There are a few players where we are not quite sure if they are robots or not, Innovation being one of them. He's going to play in the WCS Finals at the weekend. But starting to the bottom left, we currently have our Protoss opponent. Starting for CJ Entus, it is
CJ Entus Trust.
He'd never lie to you.
Yeah. Trust with the pylon in his main base. So we can trust that he's going to start with probably a gateway opening. He could try to fool us a little bit and go for a Forge in the main base, but usually when you see the pylon these days in the main, you will be confronted with a gateway opening against Zerg.
By the way, I want to point out that Golden has chosen yellow, which is as close to gold as it gets as his color. So I like that.
Yeah, that's probably not a coincidence.
Yeah. You know, in some tournaments of the GSL, you're allowed to pick your color, and this is one of them. So he chose his color to be gold, or as close to it as you get. Hatch first goes down for Golden, and it looks like it's just going to be a Nexus first for Trust. So it's going to be a good build for him. Not going to be cannoned or anything like that.
In this matchup right now, what we actually have the Nexus first going down now for Trust, and for Golden now it's of course a question of scouting. Will he find out what exactly is happening here? He could adjust his build accordingly. At this point, what Zerg players really try to do is play it a little bit more safe when they see that there's a gateway opening, which we don't have. We have Trust going not only into the Nexus first, but following it up with the cannon there, of course.
Yeah. Forge placement here in the main base, going to be a little bit harder to scout. And right now, Golden, since he scouted incorrectly, is a little bit uncomfortable. He also has an Overlord to check for cannoning, but he doesn't know where his opponent is spawned, and this is going to be cannoning still. I'm a little bit surprised by this.
He's going for it though, but nice. Golden immediately going for the whole position here with the drone. He knows about the danger. He's trying to take down, of course, the Harvester, but at this point, Trust is already abandoning all cannoning ideas. I don't think that he will even attempt to go through with it. He's probably going to cancel the pylon and just trying to steal as much mining time of his opponent as possible.
He actually let the pylon finish. I don't think he will actually make a cannon. I think that was a mistake to let the pylon finish. Because it's not like it even really helps him supply-wise. Then he forgot a probe there. So, a few little mistakes here for Trust opening up, and I like the idea of the fake, but for Golden, he's only sends a few drones down, and also he was going to have to transfer those drones down to the hatchery anyways, so for him he didn't lose too much. The only thing that Trust gets out of this is he gets a little bit of extra supply for a moment, but obviously not really useful since it's already way over at 26 out of 44.
Yeah. We currently have now speed coming up for Golden, and he can, well, with the speed at least, he's going to have the map control. We have Trust now with his opening going straight into his cybernetics core, and as soon as that's done, Golden is of course trying to find out what exactly is going to happen in the Protoss player's main base. But for now, with the information that he has, we would expect to see a third base coming up, and the drone is leaving the natural right as I say it.
Yep, it's going to make it away from his opponent, of course, rather than towards, so he's a lot safer against possible gateway aggression or immortal aggression with Warp Prism coming out.
On a map like Atlas, there are several points where you can access either the third base or try to go straight to the natural and then shield your units with force fields. So Golden has to be really careful about how he's going to approach this match, especially since he needs a lot of scouting information to know what's coming. A lot of Protoss players are trying to go for timings here, especially popular, of course, still Colossi and Immortals. And this is the map where we saw Killer play his style with Immortal and Zealot against Lenok. And at this point, Trust, on the other hand, decides to go into the Stargate tech instead.
Yep. His probe that he had hidden to the north was actually spotted. Great scouting by Golden. He checked everywhere for probes. He didn't want any pylons to go down where he could be pressured by 4 gateways because he doesn't know if the Forge is researching +1 or not. So he had to be even extra careful about that. And this means the probe now dead, not able to scout either. And I don't believe he actually saw that third base. No, he did not see it.
A pretty early roach run that we have here for Golden. He's building it as if he would have thought there is a gateway expand instead of a forge opening, and I feel that's actually exactly what he thinks is happening here. I don't think that he spotted that forge.
Yeah, he did not see the forge.
Yeah. With the timing, he could have figured it out, but I feel that the scout was so late that he didn't realize how fast the, how late the gateway actually was, and just assumed that his opponent was starting here with a forge or with a gateway opening.
Even if he was just worried that there was maybe +1, he wouldn't have made it that early. He can make it a little bit later against regular 4 gateway timing after Forge expand. So.
And that makes the third base a little bit ballsy. He built it later than he usually would, not at 4:20 or even for the 4-minute mark, but still quite early, and is now going straight into lair, adding the additional gas, and just trying to find out with the Overlords what's going on here. And he saw the added gateway, so at least he knows that there is the potential of pressure by Trust.
Yep, he's adding Spore Crawlers right now, and is pulling most of his Overlords back. Obviously the ones down on the right side of the map already got killed because they were just not going to escape no matter what. He has one in the middle of the map, which is now found and killed, but the rest of the Overlords have been pulled back very carefully, making those spores without any hesitation. And I think he's going to get ready to react to a third base. I think he's starting to figure out, okay, no pressure is coming here.
We have now Robo and Twilight Council coming, so it really looks like we're going to see a third base from Trust. That was what you would always do in Wings of Liberty. And at the same time, also trying to do as much damage to the economy as humanly possible, taking down quite a fair amount of Harvesters here, and still producing Phoenixes. And the Phoenixes, of course, they give him great scouting opportunities, good method to harass the Zerg player, especially his economy. And you have something on the map that usually prevents the Zerg player from going into Mutalisk, and a lot of Protoss players really hate Mutalisk for a good reason.
Yeah, of course. The Mutalisk give Protoss players nightmares. And this Nexus here is very safe.
Yeah.
He's got all the information in the world, and he knows that he can take this without a problem while continuing to pressure. These Roaches are here just as a safety measure against possible Zealots that might come running in here at any second. And so far, Golden, he has a Ling in position, and he does see the Nexus being placed, so now he can just sit back and either decide to go for an attack, or just kind of relax and take another base and continue to attack.
And of course, what the third base here also means is the safety that Wolf was talking about is we have blink for mobility, so if the Zerg player goes into Mutalisk, you are mobile enough not only with the Phoenixes but also with the Stalkers that you can warp in, that you can bounce between your bases and defend. If there is a massive attack coming on ground with Lings and Roaches, you have the Immortals that you can Chrono Boost out of your robotics so that you have a good wall and can take down them without a problem at all.
And he can see it as well with the Phoenixes here. He knows it's coming. He's got the Mothership Core. His Nexus isn't ready yet, so he can't overcharge it until it's done.
But he has the Force Fields, he has the first Immortal out there, and still the Phoenixes that can help out. And this is just a bit too much with good control, but the Force Fields are actually very often he's losing one sentry after another.
Yeah, way late on those Force Fields. So many sentries going down. Not very cost efficient here up at defense, but he does push it back with flying colors. It could have been much better, though, with just a little bit faster reaction time on those Force Fields.
Losing at least 3 sentries here is, of course, a big problem for him. Now with the Force Fields, he needs to be very careful, and he cannot get this many. And this is also a problem. Do you warp in more Force Fields? Do you use your gas for something else? He can't use the Force Fields here. He's losing the first Immortal. The second one is being the target as well. He might lose that too. Yeah,
this is really, really good pressure here by Golden so far. The Mothership Core actually drops a Time Warp here, and Roaches on their way out, struggling a little bit to escape, but he's already traded very efficiently, and he's continuing the aggression. He keeps making more Roaches, using this Burrow a little bit to be annoying.
Burrow being really well used here, regenerating a few of the hit points, and Trust is under so much pressure here. This is horrible for him. He doesn't have the energy anymore to just throw down Force Fields and Guardian Shield, and he's losing the last remaining sentries, and now the Roaches are just closing the distance.
Next wave's coming in here, Keller, and I think that, this is just too much done here. He's actually just done so much pressure. He's traded so cost efficiently.
Trust is already in panic mode here. He's trying to save what there is to save, but he's losing unit after unit. The Immortal is the only thing that keeps him alive, and he's using it well, shielding it once more. But he needs an Observer here, and this is gonna just use up such valuable time with the robotics. He needs additional Immortals, but he needs also detection.
Exactly. He's decided to make one more Immortal before the Observer. Now he's in so much trouble, though. No sentries, not in sight. The Immortal's being targeted down here. That one so low on hit points. The Zergling looks like it will take it out. Barely survives.
1 hit point left. Another Zergling could just run down and take it out, but the Roaches of Golden, they're retreating. He's going into the +2 attack upgrade as we speak. The supply is still very even with Trust now just warping in round after round and trying to prepare.
And he got that base saturated. He's been able to make 3 probes at a time, so his economy is really stabilized here.
He has more Harvesters than Golden. Golden needs to do more damage with this, and he's trying to do that, but they're pulling forward already here with those Stalkers, and Golden is losing his Roaches.
Yeah, losing his Roaches here. Again, not the best trade for Trust, but he just has the economy now to afford trading like this.
Yeah, the problem for Golden really is he did a lot, and he did a lot more than I would have expected, especially with the poor micro that we had at the beginning of Trust. But Trust is now stabilizing and even heading in the +3 into the +3 attack upgrade. And the problem for Golden really being that he's lacking a transition at this point.
Yeah, no infestation pit means he's stuck making a composition that is going to be hard countered essentially by Trust right now. And he's going for a counterattack. At the very least, he's going to push this creep back a little bit.
Trust just has now the army and also the numbers that he needs to contest the Zerg players' forces. And there is not a lot that Golden can do about this. He doesn't have a Spire, he doesn't have an infestation pit, he cannot add a high attack. He's simply relying on the same unit composition that he has been using. Also, there's just no Hydra Dan. He cannot do anything against this. This is going to be really scary for him. It looked strong, but right now he has to just rely on his opponent making mistakes.
A few missed force fields here, but you know, now he can trade against the Lings. He could actually blink to the side to get a better trade, but he doesn't. And I mean, Golden may just die here, I think. He just does not have enough units, and his composition is just wrong. He's desperately trying to make Zerglings right now, but the upgrades here are just too strong.
His attack was really strong, but the problem is that the economy behind it was not strong enough to sustain the attacks for too much longer, and now he's moving in once again, trying to go for this flank. He could take out the Immortal, and he has to. He has a lot of units here, but he's dropping in supply, and the Protoss player still with a huge bank that he's using now for another warp in.
Yeah, very late blinks, and you know what? He's actually trading better than I thought he would against these Stalkers, because Stalkers are still barely on creep.
Yeah, a good job so far by Golden, but another Immortal now joining the battle, and if he micros that Immortal well, and he doesn't.
Yep,
loses the Immortal,
transfuses.
it's all the way at the front, the Queens are doing a lot of damage. Trust really has problems with his micromanagement here.
Yeah, he certainly does. I mean, he's about to have +3, which is going to help him in 2 additional gateways for production. But Trust is actually pushing himself more and more into an all-in situation where he's not going to be able to transition out of this composition.
He has more Harvesters than Golden, but Golden heading now into the 4th base. He has the 4th already. His +2 attack upgrade is done. The +3 attack upgrade for Trust is also completed. But this is really a little bit of a weird game. At first, Golden with so much pressure, Trust missing his force fields, also doing a very poor job at microing his Immortals, and that is something that we saw throughout the entire game from him.
Yeah.
Every Immortal that he had was exposed at the front, was never shielded correctly, and Golden could run in with the roaches and take it down.
He didn't always use his blink either. There was a lot of weird moments there. I think he might have a few nerves going into this one.
Trust could have won this game. He could have won it already. His push was strong. He had a very, very strong composition. He had a lot of units there, good upgrades on them, but with the unit control that we saw, he was not able to break through, and Golden was excellent with his macro. He always had another wave of units moving in. He didn't miss an inject here. His Queens are very low on energy because of that. So very good micro job here by Golden, and that kept him alive. But now he has to try to transition, and he's doing it with a Spire.
Yeah. Well, 1 Phoenix for a Queen, never a good trade. He could actually make it 2 Phoenixes for a Queen if he's not careful here. Trust just having really high 3-base economy, but a late transition, and poor micro, really causing him to suffer. The Mutalisk transition here for Golden, you know, and he may even just go into Corruptors actually at this timing. I don't know what his plan is exactly, but he saved up a lot of gas.
He's going to go for Mutalisks. Yeah, that's definitely going to be Mutalisks. With this much gas and minerals, he should go straight into the Muta transition.
I just don't know how effective this is really going to be against this many Blink Stalkers this late in the game with a Blink already being done.
Depends if he is given time. With time, he can make those Mutalisks work and just attack and then get a few Corruptors behind it to deal with the Colossi. But the problem really is what Trust is going to do when he sees them. If he moves out right away and forces Golden to fight, then those Mutalisks are definitely the wrong choice. I would have rather seen Colossi here in this situation. Sorry,
Corruptors, you mean,
of
right?
course,
Yeah, that's what I was... I mean, it looks like he just didn't really quite realize how many Stalkers there were. He's making a lot of spines, so he is preparing for a possible base trade. And, you know, he's going up to, I think, 20 mutas. It is 16 now.
It's really a matter of time. If you give him time, then he can go for a base composition. But Trust is moving out, and the only thing that Trust has to do right now is swap in Stalkers at home and get a few cannons up.
Exactly. He loses almost all of his probes here, but like you said, if he makes enough cannons, he should be okay. He blinks right into the Spine Crawlers.
There are only 2 cannons at the 3rd base, and Golden is moving in. No additional cannons being built by Trust. He needs to be careful here. He needs a bit of defense at home. He needs cannons or more Stalkers.
Yeah, he needs a lot more Stalkers. Right now, I almost feel like he should send some of his Stalkers that's with his army right now home. It's going to take a long time, though. He has to make some tough choices here. He's blinking decently right now, and the Mutas are pushed back, but there are more on the way.
Yeah, he has a decent amount of Stalkers by now at home, and they can defend a good positioning too, shielding them from the Roaches and Zerglings. The Muta numbers are getting lower and lower, and the army of the Protoss player is still taking down bases at the top left.
Yep, few Lings left. He needs to get that Extractor. It's so important for him to actually finish that building off. It's not going to bleed out, and he actually leaves it. That's a huge mistake.
Yeah, but right now, Trust can just take... Trust can just get his forces all together and take this game. He has a huge army supply, and it just shows that Golden's decision to go into Mutalisk was the wrong one. It could have worked given time, but Trust knew that, of course, and once he identified the Mutas, he immediately moved out, realizing that there was no way for Golden to fight his army.
No, GG.
A little bit of a scrappy game that we saw here. A lot of mistakes here, especially by Trust with his micro, but his decision-making was good. Golden more shining with his macro play, but the decision to go into Mutalisk's a questionable one at best.
It was just the wrong time. It could have worked, like you said, if given more time. If he had 25, 26 meters instead of 16, that would have been a very different story. Would have been able to get a lot more done there. It was still a surprise, but there was a lot of Stalkers. He was ready for the possibility. He left Stalkers at home for run-bys and also the possibility of a Mutalisk switch. He was ready.
I mean, it's tempting. You have the resources, and that's one of the mistakes that I will always do when I ladder. You have the resources and you find yourself in a tough spot and you try to just pressure your opponent of being passive. But when there's already a +3 attack upgrade for the Stalkers, there is a decent Stalker count, and you have Blink as well, then the Protoss player can move out immediately, and you cannot fight this army. The Stalkers alone rip your Mutalisk to shreds, and you cannot take down the Colossi fast enough so that they can't deal with Lings and also with the Roaches. So you're just trying to pressure your opponent to pin him down in his base and then build up behind it. But if your opponent doesn't fall for that and simply moves out and warps in either Stalkers at the back or gets additional cannons up, then you're in a very weird spot, and you need like 20 to 30 Mutalisks if you really want to go to the base phase in this particular game right now, and that was just a number that Golden could never build up.
Yeah, and he had a lot of warp-ins trusted, so he was able to get so many Stalkers into home in his main base where the Muse didn't come at first. There's a hesitation. Went to the third base. There were a few cannons there, so they went to the natural, and they gave him a few more warp-ins, and then eventually the wall and the continued warp-in of Stalkers with the Blink Micro was too much for him, and he lost his whole production.
Yeah, both players had points in the game where they could have taken it, but a few mistakes, as we said earlier. Trust more with his micro, Golden on the other hand with his decision making. That was what cost him the game in the end. So the first game here goes to Trust, who takes a 1-0 lead in the group. We're of course heading now into our second game, and this will feature our two Terran players in the group. Yoda is up against Fantasy here.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if we're going to see Hellbat drops from one or other of these players. This kind of dominated this matchup. And we saw yesterday someone go into late Hellbat drops and then, end up failing at them. So, it's a huge investment. If you don't do a ton of damage to those Hellbat drops, your opponent can really punish you for it.
Maru defended against the Hellbat drops of his opponent like a boss. I mean, that was so well done, and there was just nothing, really nothing that Bunny could do about it. So if we see a defense like this, then Hellbat drops are not going to do too much, and it is a bit of an investment. It's only minerals in the end. You don't have to really sacrifice a lot of gas for it. Only for the medivac a bit, but that's basically it.
Yeah.
Yoda versus Fantasy, that's one of the strongest games that we have today, though, I feel.
It's definitely going to be really, really awesome to see how these two players respond to each other's playstyles. Battleship Vestige is the map, so two-player map, relatively medium in size. Not a map where you see a ton of sensor turret rings and late siege lines. It's usually more so of a timing-oriented map who can deny the third base first or get that drop on the main base rather than a slow push map.
Yoda playing for LGIM here. He wants to go back into Codes. The same is true for Fantasy. Both players have been in Codes in the past. Belcher Vestige is our map. It's only the first game for both of them. We have a 5-player group. You want to get an early lead here. If you manage to get a 3-0 in the group, you will advance to Codes. And this is, of course, the goal for both of them here. But only one can take the first win. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Yoda? Is it going to be Fantasy? We're going to find out right now at the GSL Up and Downs Group B with Power and Wolf.